So, state-appointed Superintendent Mike Miles has been leading the Houston Independent School District since June 5th of 2023. He was in Austin last week testifying in support of Senate Bill 1962, which would give the state more power to modify its standards and increase the rigor of the rating system across Texas public schools. Any parent who's in the process of looking into public school or has gone through it understands the importance of a school's ranking within the district. Here to discuss SB 1962 and give us an update on the state of HISD is Superintendent Mike Miles. Welcome to Hello Houston, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello, everybody.
We're glad to see you.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So I just have a quick question. Okay, so schools are ranked. Is it a letter grade or a number grade?
That's right. It's a letter grade, A through F, and of course D and F rated schools are struggling. Yes,
sure.
failing.
Okay.
And we want to welcome your questions and comments for Superintendent Miles, and you can give us a call at 713-440-8870. And we'd love to hear from you, our listeners and watchers and viewers. And so, Superintendent Miles, you just touched on it a little bit, but let's start with how the schools in the state are currently being ranked right now, and then how what you're advocating would change that.
So we're being rated on an A through F system. And for HISD, for example, when I started 2 years ago, we had 121 D and F rated campuses, 93 A and B rated campuses, and there's 273 schools.
How do you get the rating?
So the rating is from the Texas Education Agency, and mostly based on the STAAR exam, on graduation rate, achievement gap, and what we call college career military readiness indicators.
Okay, so how well the students are doing.
So basically how well the students are doing on core subjects. Reading,
and are they going forward?
Writing, math, yes, and whether they're making progress. So you can get scored, you get points for progress, growth, and for basic achievement, proficiency.
Do you feel that the current system that we have truly reflects how the schools are doing?
So yes is the answer, but there's footnotes to that. So no one test can capture how well your district is doing. Mm-hmm. It gives a good indication, though, on the whole, can your students read at grade level? Can your students do math at grade level? Are your students getting prepared for college and careers? So generally speaking, it's a good test for a snapshot. And it's only one test, so people need to keep that in mind.
And what's the current graduation rate for HISD?
Yeah, so our graduation rate is in the 80s, high 80s.
That's
right
very
now.
good. I remember when it was 50%.
And we're moving that.
That's 80, I'm surprised it's in the 80% range.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I think that's terrific.
So, Superintendent Miles, you touched on the STAAR test, and next week HISD will start testing the STAAR. And something that you brought up in Austin was changing that to shortening the exam. Can you talk to us about what that would look like if it was a shorter exam? Would it still be the STAAR? And why you think the STAAR exam needs to be changed?
So I was testifying in support of Senate Bill 1962 because I think we need to have an accountability system. We need to maintain a rigorous accountability system, and most of that bill solidifies or reinforces the accountability system. As far as the new tests go, I'm okay with the current STAAR exam and the current way we are giving letter grades to districts, but the new STAAR or the new test or the proposed one, gives 3 separate looks at the school district. So beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of year. And so instead of one big exam at the end of the year, the STAAR, and we're about to start that.
That's right. Yeah.
In just a couple of days for this set of exams, there will be beginning of the year and middle of the year exams that are similar to STAAR, but much truncated, of course.
And what about blocking the ratings and showing? Are these going to be transparent ratings?
So that's one of the reasons why I support Senate Bill 1962, because I believe that parents should have an idea and get data on whether the school system is doing well or not. And
do they currently not?
Well, if you block the ratings,
And they're currently blocked.
they're currently blocked. School districts can release them like we have. Dallas has. Several districts have released the scores, the letter grades, but they're currently blocked. You know that the court just allowed TEA to release the 2023 ratings. We suspect they'll be able to release the 24 ratings also. So parents need to know that. And again, if we all keep it in perspective, it is one exam, but it does tell you 60% of your kids are reading at grade level or not, or 20%.
Now, the reason the school districts wanted to essentially block or not release their test scores was because they felt that they were not being measured properly. Do you have any response to that as to why would school districts essentially want to not release their ranking?
Look, I think the STAAR test is reliable and it's valid. Mm-hmm. There's been research that it's technical, but it is. And so, again, it's one test, but that's a valid test, and they should release it. Good, bad, or indifferent, parents need to know, hey, our students are doing well. This is how my third grader is doing. This is how the school is doing on fourth grade math, whatever, and they need to know that.
Has there ever been any thought to, because I know when I was in school, you could take the SAT 2 or 3 or 4 times. ACT you could take 2 or 3 or 4 times. And graduate classes and tests you can take over and over. If there are students who don't do well on that STAAR test, has there ever been any consideration of letting them retake it?
Not the regular subjects, no. But remember, they take it every year, number one. But number two, we educators take other assessments to assess our progress. So, for example, in HISD, we take what's called the NWEA MAP assessments. That's the beginning of the year tests, middle of the year, and end of year. So we don't just rely on STAAR. There are other assessments that we take, the Circle exam for pre-K. We take DIBELS, which measures fluency and phonemic awareness for literacy for the younger kids mostly. So there's other ways. We don't just rely on the STAAR exam.
What about teacher rankings? Because the teacher assessments have also been introduced. Will that be part of this to get a ranking?
So no, the state will not rank teachers. That's up to the district on how they evaluate teachers.
But that won't be part of the school ranking.
No, that's not part of the A through F rating.
Okay.
Right. And you're listening to Hello Houston. Frank, Ernie, and myself, Celeste, are joined by HISD Superintendent Mike Miles. You can join the conversation at 713-880-440-8870. And Roger from the Galleria is on the line. Hi, Roger. How are you?
Hi, good morning. Well, actually, I'm closer to River Oaks, but that kind of sounds nitty.
Okay. We'll take River Oaks. What's your question?
Well, thanks for inviting me to join in first. Whenever I hear the subject of education, there's a lot of blame that goes around for all the problems we have. It's the teachers, it's the system, it's the politicians, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't hear a lot about what responsibilities parents have for the education of their children.
Okay, thanks, Roger. That's a good point. What do you think about that, Mr. Miles? I mean, how do you encourage parents to get involved in all of this?
I think it's great if parents are involved. I know, Celeste, you have kids.
I
and
do,
you
She's
are
crazy
and
involved.
I have so many questions. I'm like, Frank.
and it would be great for parents to be engaged like you are engaged. Not all parents have the wherewithal or the time to be engaged in the same way. And so
you can't police parents.
Well, I hope parents would do at least 2 things. Get their kid to school on time every day.
Fair.
That's number 1.
Fair.
And number 2, when a child comes home, ask them about an open-ended question, not, did you have a good day or not, not a yes or no answer, but ask them seriously about how their day went and what they learned and their experience. Other than that, I think the school system itself is the one that needs to really not blame parents, but say, look, we have effective teachers who can teach reading and math and the other subjects, and we're good at our job, and we're going to do that every day for our kids.
I just have a quick question because you mentioned about something that you're advocating would essentially break up the STAAR test. And so would it be this huge monumental exam at the end of the year for students? And I guess my question would be, I think a lot of parents' concern around that is that mentality of teaching to test. And I think parents want to see more of a holistic approach. How would you be able to provide a more holistic approach that parents want to see in their kids' curriculum if you are breaking up a huge test at the end of the year and adding 2 more, so you'd have 3 in the whole year?
So let's start with the philosophy of the concept. I believe that you should test kids or only assess kids on what you taught them. Now, some people want to say that's teaching to the test. That's a misnomer in our profession. Of course, you should only test things that you have taught.
Right.
So, and I do believe we can assess and we should assess your reading ability and your math ability. So if that requires some sort of test, and maybe you don't like the STAAR exam, fine, then tell me which one you like. NWA, NAEP, the National Report Card. So we need an assessment of some sort. I've already said the STAAR is reliable and valid. If you want to break it up and make it 3 reliable and valid tests, that's fine. But in some way, parents need to know, schools need to know, educators need to know, can a kid read at grade level?
Yeah.
And that has to be a valid assessment. Now, beyond the test, there's all kinds of other things we do for kids. And we should. We should do electives. We should do sports. We should do art of thinking, which is what HISD is doing. We're the only district in the United States where in 130 schools, we take art of thinking 3 times a week, 90 minutes each time, 3rd grade through 10th grade. That is not STAAR tested.
What is art of thinking?
Art of thinking is information literacy, problem solving, and critical thinking. Okay. A very purposeful, creative curriculum to get kids ready for a different world and workplace where critical thinking, information literacy, and problem solving are at a premium. So we're doing that, and that's not STAAR tested. We should be doing performance arts. We don't need to be evaluated by the states to be, to do something good for kids. So performance arts in the NES New Education System schools, we call those the 130 schools, we have on top of electives, not in place of electives, we have what's called dyad, martial arts, photography, dance, piano. These are different experiences that kids get and should get to round out their education. And definitely, we at the HISD Foundation luncheon last week, we focused on performance arts because that's a big area of the district, even though everybody knows we also, at the same time, focus on instruction.
My son went to HSPVA. So
yeah, I mean,
I'm all for it.
HSPVA is a great example.
Yeah. I want to turn to the voucher system they've had in Arkansas and Florida. Are you familiar, I'm sure, with both of those?
A little bit, yes.
Have they worked? Do you think they've worked?
So, I mean, I don't know if they have worked. I don't have enough information about that. I think in the end of the day, parent choice is important. I've always thought that. Before I came to Houston, I was the CEO of a charter network, and my belief is all schools need good teachers. All schools should be effective and teach kids well, whether it's private, public, charter, traditional. All of them.
I guess the criticism I've heard from teachers I've spoken to is that a voucher-type system can take away the better students from the public schools and put them in the private schools, and so now your rankings are going to come down in those public schools.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of evidence for that.
I think that's the fear. I don't know if there is evidence.
Yeah,
I just hear that as a fear.
I suspect that you're right, that is a fear. I'm not that afraid of that. I think the best teachers, the most effective teachers, are the teachers in the public schools, and in some charter schools.
And I would agree. And they don't rank private schools.
No.
We
Right.
do rank public schools.
And the accountability is higher in the traditional public schools.
Sure. In fact, I mean, teachers in private schools don't necessarily have to have a teaching degree.
That's right.
So how do you, if you were a parent and you were saying, well, this public schools are A, B, I'd like to send my kid to a private school, but there's no ranking, how do you know if you're getting a better deal?
Well, there are rankings, and I think that that's one of the concerns. For example, my daughter goes to an excellent school, and we love the administrators, the teachers there very much. And I see them day in, day out working with this new curriculum and really implementing the new thinking. And I think that it's unfortunate, though, but we are not ranked that great. And that's one of the issues that I think parents feel, that the way we are measuring, absolutely, we want to measure how students can read and how teachers are doing. But I think parents want to also really understand where that measurement is coming from.
That's right. I think there's other things, though. Parents also look at the safe and orderly environment, and then they look at programming. So the STAAR exam, the rankings, is one metric, though, and a serious one for most parents, meaning they don't want to go to a D or F rated school.
No.
That's right.
At the same time, even if you're getting an A or B, if you don't have a safe and orderly environment, or you're not offering programming like PVSA or some of the other performance art schools that we have, or magnet schools, then that may not be something a parent wants. They want both. They want it all, and the worst we can do is say we're not going to give you a score on academics.
We're speaking with HISD Superintendent Mike Miles. We're taking your calls, too. It's 713-440-8870. Superintendent, you have been here now 2 years-ish. I'm curious, do you feel like you have gotten a handle on the place? When we first talked, when you first got here, there was a lot you had to get a hold of and figure out and let your message be heard and have time to develop it. Where do you think you are on this journey? And how much longer do you think this current establishment, I don't want to say this takeover, but what's happening there, is bound for the Houston area?
So we've spent the last 2 years really looking at our instruction, improving that, and also looking at systems. By the way, on instruction, we went from 121 D and F rated campuses to 41 in the first year.
Nice.
On the other end, we went from
Congratulations.
93 A and B rated campuses to 170. So,
So I guess you would see that as successful.
I think that's a
working.
bona fide success.
Yeah.
I mean, most recently, the NAEP, the Nation's Report Card, we're one of the few districts in the country that proficiency-wise went up in all four of the exams. 4th grade math, 4th grade reading, 8th grade math, 8th grade reading. Anyway, but there's so many other systems and processes in a big district, one with 25,000 employees, and we've had to fix a lot of those things. And of course, change is hard, totally understandable. We had to change, break a lot of the status quo, not just instructionally, but systemically, and that's been a challenge. And so you asked, do we have a handle on it? Yeah, I believe that we've got a long way to go. That's number one. But number two, we're making really good progress. We know where the pitfalls are and where the challenges are, and now it's a matter of continuing to improve and move that flywheel.
So then what are the things that keep you up at night? What are the ones that are bothering you now?
It's always, can we move fast enough to get our kids who are behind ready for world and workplace? We have a lot of kids who are behind, and that can't be changed overnight. And the world is not slowing down for us, right? I mean, the world and workplace is changing every day, especially with AI in our future. So we're trying to upgrade our high skills, high wage, high demand jobs, for example, and that's going to take a little bit of time. So what keeps me up is I got a generation of kids in school now. I cannot wait. We cannot wait, because every year that passes, many kids aren't going to get what they need.
Superintendent Miles, Ernie mentioned that you will, in June, it'll be 2 years. And one of the big issues or concerns. Obviously, the Board of Managers meetings get very heated, and a lot of parents and community members alike have felt that there's been a lack of empathy. Do you feel like now that we're coming into that 2-year, how have you been able to bridge that gap and reach across to those parents and community members that have felt that perhaps things were not necessarily handled immediately the right way?
Yeah, I think, over time, it's already gotten better, meaning people are getting used to some of the changes. Where our message is getting out, the narrative is changing. Still, there's a lot still to do, and there are some things that we're doing that people are not going to be happy with, and I'm not sure that will ever change, because we've got a lot still to do. And so I think it's already moving, and I think the sentiment is changing. So I feel good about that. But part of that comes from just continually getting out there. Look, I'm on your show today.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
And I think that's one little piece that helps. Whether people agree or not, I think they can see that, hopefully I'm not a crazy person.
No,
it's like,
no. The proof is in the pudding.
And at the core, once people hear the message enough, they understand you may not agree with all the things we're doing, but all of it is tied to what's good for our kids.
Well, I hope when some of these bills have either passed or failed, you will come back and tell us where you stand on them.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to do that.
That'd be great.
It's a pretty heavy legislative session, so
we
we'll
have
see
2 hours every day.
That's right.
Every day.
I have one last quick question. So, Superintendent, I saw recently that there's a group of 4th graders that are getting behind styrofoam trays, and they're taking change in their own hands. Have you heard about that?
Yes.
Have you talked to them?
So a group from River Oaks, I was there for their International Day, and they had lots of booths and tables, and they were groups of kids were talking about different countries, and one group was talking about styrofoam and trying to end polystyrene trays. Mm-hmm. And so I was impressed with them, and they asked if I wanted more information. They'd give it to me. So I said, sure, let's set up a meeting. And they came a week ago to the central office, Hattie Mae. They did a presentation. These are 3 girls, 4th graders, so articulate, so smart, from River Oaks Elementary School. Very articulate. I was very impressed. And they made a pitch to us to get rid of these styrofoam trays for lunch.
Right.
And they had their data. It was just like a cabinet meeting. Where they presented their proposal, had their data, had to back it up with data, and so as a result of that, we are going to do a pilot at River Oaks and Hoggs Middle School, and we will use bamboo trays. They're slightly more expensive, but you have to get a supply chain, and you have to worry about big orders and things like that. So we'll start with the pilot, and then we'll see.
Are we
if
at
we
paper straws yet?
We are,
Yeah.
actually. We're starting to do that
And
this
paper
year.
cups, no plastic cups. See?
So we're and this is the next evolution, right? But I was persuaded by evidence and facts.
Excellent.
That's
by our
the secret to your
HISD
heart.
students.
Not those cute 4th graders.
No, absolutely not. Superintendent Mike Miles, thank you so much for joining Frank, Ernie, and myself today on Hello Houston.
Thanks for
Come back
having
soon.
me.
Come back
Thank
soon.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.